All right, welcome back. I hope you're having an awesome time so far. Our next speaker is Kyle Hoback. He's the Director, Intelligent Automation at WorkFusion. Please join me in welcoming Kyle to the stage.
All right, thanks, Patrika. Let me pull my screen up here and get things started. Go full screen. All right, that's the end. There we go. All right, so thanks, Patrika. I'm so excited to talk to you all today. What I'm going to talk about is what I've called going beyond the digital facade. So I come from WorkFusion. We're an intelligent automation company. And really where I want to focus is about how our software can help, our software and our type of software in general, but how our software can help improve the customer experience, specifically for banking and financial services. So looking across the market, banking, like every industry, is looking to implement the best customer experience that they can, provide the best digital, quick, fast user experiences for their products. So that might mean implementing mobile apps, might mean updating web portals, might mean things like adding chatbots. And in fact, it's probably adding all of those, probably areas that are being added and improved or enhanced in certain ways. And that all needs to happen. But that's only half the answer. So in looking at the customer experience is not just the screens that people click on. It's also the outcomes from what those actions trigger. And when we talk to various banking leaders across the market, unfortunately, what we hear is that while the digital front end is occurring and getting better, the back end still remains manual. That means there's a lot of analysts and operators working in the back office, combing through lots of documents, navigating through lots of legacy apps, and really just working through things in an analog, non-digital way. So the digital experience is getting better for the front end for the customer, but in the back end, there's still a lot of slow, costly, error-prone work that's occurring. Now, it has a name, so we can call it Customer Lifecycle Management, Client Lifecycle Management, or just CLM for short. But what happens is it's a lot of documents and workflows that are being supported in the background. So customers are using their modern digital experience, their chatbots, et cetera, but it has to go to a lot of legacy systems, things that have been pieced together over the years, over the decades, to be able to facilitate what the customers need. So customers are providing their documents and data, but they have to go through a series of workflows and applications to get everything updated. And what happens is the manual effort comes from building operational teams to facilitate all this in the middle. People are doing keystrokes and mouse clicks to collect, understand, classify, validate, find, enter, route, and otherwise action these customer requests. And this is what we would call the brutal reality of manual work, where people have just been the middle of all of these systems. They're gluing it all together. Now, there have been attempts to scale and improve this. What it ends up happening is it typically is just adding more people, throwing more bodies at the problem. In some cases, there's technology that comes in, but it tends to be kind of pieced together and spotted within, and in a way that ends up just creating more technical debt and doesn't actually solve the problem. And it's across the bank, it's across the financial institution. So it's from when customers are initiating and collecting or setting up their accounts, through the enrichment, due diligence, monitoring and maintenance activities that work with the customer's account over time, even to customer offboarding. So what that means within KYC and AML, things like transaction triage, customer due diligence, enhanced due diligence, all of these areas have this kind of brutal reality of manual work. Things like screening, name screening alert review, payment screening alert review, adverse media monitoring, even into treasury and capital markets. FX settlement exception handling, standard settlement instructions, different areas within trade finance. All of this has this common pain, this common issue that there's manual work that's slowing the customer experience down. And it has very severe implications. So looking at corporate accounts, the corporate banking side, about 40% of customers are actually dissatisfied with their bank. That tends to lead to about a 15% revenue churn. And it often started from when they started their relationship with the bank. Probably took 2 weeks to open their account, even after they had all their documentation ready. Longer than they would have expected, especially in a digital first world that we live in today. And it's not that teams aren't trying to improve, but there's significant cost challenges in the background. Over half of the CLM work has a lot of exceptions in different areas that has required this manual work, which means banking operations have about, if you look at a mid-sized bank, there's about $50 million in cost, in operational cost. And when you scale that up to bigger banks or smaller banks, there's still a significant amount of manual labor and manual work that's slowing everything down. And we hear it in many different areas, from customers having issues with just slow account requests, to many requests for documentation, to just frustration where people cancel their accounts and cancel their application process. And where customers have issues, that's pain for leaders to solve. And we're seeing it everywhere. And it's this underlying manual issue that keeps coming up. So what if there was a better way? What if there was a way to go beyond the digital facade, to not just provide the digital interface to make it easy to navigate the bank, but also get the digital outcomes, the more real-time approach, real-time outcomes that are occurring, to be able to deliver a true digital experience? What if there was a better way to design and architect this approach? So intelligent automation offers a new operating reality. It provides a layer to be able to help your customers and the systems in the background be able to function much more efficiently and reduce the burden on the operational teams. So this means the work actually remains the same. Data collection, data enrichment, the due diligence, the other activities, that all needs to be done, in many ways done the same way from a input and output perspective. But how that work is done is different. How that work is done is enhanced by having a lot of pre-built use cases, things that can facilitate KYC document handling, customer outreach, KYC self-sourcing, but also being able to scale and look across the bank and help out all of the other areas, all powered by this intelligent automation approach. So let's dig a little deeper, but first actually take a step back. And the step back is to say, it's not theoretical, it's actually very practical and real. Scotiabank, within their first year of deploying our software, actually created a capacity of over 100 FTEs, which resulted in about $15 million in savings. And that's actually just the people cost. And in talking with them, they were also considering, before the pandemic, considering expanding their real estate footprint. As they were growing the bank, they had more analysts they need to house and give office space, and they were looking for buildings. Now, they ended up being able to avoid that because they put automation in place, but also ended up being an extra savings because our current office situation is we're kind of coming out of the pandemic. So to deliver on those FTEs, kind of two key areas that really helped drive that. One was the reducing the amount of false positives. The areas that they were applying this, there was a lot of extra work that analysts were forced to complete. And by applying automation, it reduced the noise that they were working with, but it also expanded the coverage. So being able to have a larger operational capacity without having to actually add more people. But then there were some other benefits to this as well. So not only did they have a better way to deliver the work, they also had a better process or better understanding of what work was being done. because there was automation in place, there's 100% document coverage to be able to understand what happened in each of those steps, which also led to a more fully explainable model to be able to explain to compliance and regulators within the bank. So that's one story. Other logos I put on the screen here, Scotiabank, BMO, Deutsche Bank, many others. And what they're applying it to is really the documentation, the documents that have been causing a lot of the pain over the recent years. Because the documents is where it's not easy to create a lot of rules. It's not easy to say this, and this, which is what you can do with a lot of other, even integration work and other areas where automation has been very successful so far. So what this means is going to the account opening use case that I talked about, where for a corporate bank, for a corporate bank account, you might have some business formation documentation you need to provide, beneficial ownership forms you need to provide. If you look deeper into that, that means companies are going to provide an article of incorporation. If they're in the state of New Jersey, it's going to look different than someone that's registered in Delaware, someone that's registered in New York, someone that's registered in California, et cetera. Their data is going to look different. And because there's that difference, there needs to be a new approach. And this is where intelligent automation, which is powered by artificial intelligence and machine learning, that provides the capability to be able to look across and work across the different formats and varieties that's coming in with the data that's here. So I mentioned, one document type, but obviously this slide's a bit of an eye chart of other document types. And being able to have AI available, being able to have an intelligent automation layer available to work with all this is making it possible to automate areas that have been unable to automate in the past. So looking across this, things like beneficial ownership, things like customer due diligence and enhanced due diligence, these areas, lots of documentation that just wasn't able to automate with in the past. If you look even at a simple things for kind of retail customers, provide for opening a mortgage, provide things like a utility bill, provide things like pay slips, tax documents, ID cards, maybe even utility bills as part of it. Each of these might come in a different layout and format, even within the same household. My ID card is different from my wife's ID card. Our pay slips are different. Our pay slips have changed over the past couple of years despite staying with the same company. So lots of different variety in the data that's here, and it has needed a new approach to be able to work with it. But it's now possible. So let me explain a little bit how it works, and I'll kind of walk through this and maybe give a couple of examples. So when data is coming in, it obviously needs to be ingested into this new approach, this new layer needs to pull it in. So in some cases, that means just getting it where it's coming from right now. But it also might mean to kind of standardize and pull this stuff together. Because there's new channels available, new portals maybe have been set up, chatbots have been added to get the same thing. Maybe there's still legacy people that are using fax or email to provide data to kick off these processes. So there's a need to ingest it and kind of normalize it a little bit to make things work more efficiently. But the key thing here is document intelligence, being able to work with these different documents that have been provided. So the big bar here, and I'll go deeper into it in a second, but being able to digitize, collect, classify, validate the data that's in these documents in an intelligent way is kind of the core of it, being able to do that now where that was unable in the past. But it's not just about adding AI. AI is not on the slide here. AI is kind of underlying technology to be able to facilitate this. So document intelligence includes that, but it's other things as well. It's being able to enrich the data with third-party data sources. It's being able to incorporate that in an overall workflow. We're able to work with many different systems. In many cases, there's lots of multiple systems that have to be updated with the same data because they don't already talk to each other. And across all of this, there's a need to analyze the work that's being done. Managers need to understand SLAs and KPIs. Tech teams need to be able to work with all the models and the thresholds and the quality accuracy levels. All of that needs to be assisted as part of it. But the document intelligence is really the core of what's being provided here. And with WorkFusion, there's kind of three areas that we put within a continuous learning framework that helps be a differentiator within this. So one is pre-built learning bots. So when on the previous slide where you have all of these different types of documents, each of these needs kind of its own answer, own solution to be able to work with it. So rather than saying, hey, here's AI, work with it, figure it out, WorkFusion is providing pre-built learning bots to be able to work with those different document types. Being able to understand what are the common attributes that are needed, what are the models that actually start getting data generically out of those across various customers, and being able to start from something as opposed to starting from scratch. But the second box here, the second circle here, is human in the loop. So it's not all about automation. It's also about those analysts that have been doing the work already. They play a significant role within an intelligent automations framework because they're the ones that have the expertise that are helping to continually train and work with the bots and help the bots where they aren't able to do stuff on their own. So they're validating what the automation is able to do, but they're also providing more data to be able to assist it and make the automation better over time. And they work within the process, they work with what the automation's provided to them so far, but they're also helping and enhancing and pushing it forward to make it better over time. And the third one here is cloud learning. So cloud learning is taking these concepts and pushing them into more of a cloud view. So within the bank, within a bank, or even within different geographic locations of the bank, there's probably need to kind of keep data where it's at. They don't want to, a bank doesn't want to expose it to other customers. Parts of the bank might not be able to geographically let data leave their part of the bank. So there's a desire or need to keep their data where they are. But that doesn't mean the machine learning aspect has to stop and be contained within those areas. By leveraging technologies like differential privacy, transfer learning, et cetera, being able to secure the data in such a way and secure the data so it can be shared allows to extra automation levels because the models can be shared rather than having to share and expose the underlying data. This is used by Google, Microsoft, others to be able to work with our phones and work with different data sets they have access to where personal data doesn't want to be exposed and shared with others, but the learnings from data are important to share. So being able to not just rely on your own analyst, not just rely on pre-built bots coming from WorkFusion, but also being able to leverage the broader community to be able to work with and assist and continuously learn on the data that's being provided. So let me talk through a quick example as part of this. So let's say I mentioned opening a mortgage. So a couple months ago, I was part of the fun housing market that's been 2021, and I had to provide my documentation for a mortgage. So that means I was providing my pay slips, my W-2s, my driver's licenses, or my driver's license, and then the same thing for my wife. So providing all of this documentation, sharing it, and sending it to our mortgage lender. Now, what could happen, I don't have an insight into their specific processes, but what could have happened is that just went to an analyst and they keyed in and worked with the data and it moved along. Now, if that were to work within this intelligent automation standpoint, that data would be ingested and the document intelligence would go to work. The pre-built bot would be able to collect data from my W-2, salary from last year, name and address, social security number, what have you. It would also work with the pay slips, being able to cut across the different months and collect some data to further validate the income. And it also worked with my driver's license, get my name, get my address, and be able to collect all that data. Now, in some cases, maybe things that the documentation that I provided is similar and common enough that it was able to collect all that data perfectly and move on without any need to escalate to a person. In other cases, maybe the scan had an issue with it. Maybe I just provided a very weird pay slip or what have you, and maybe it needed some assistance. It's like it's escalated to a person to be able to validate it, understand it, adjust it, and be able to provide that data within this overall pipeline. But then at the end of that, this new data gets added back into assisting with the additional pre-built bots going forward, assisting with this organization's data that has it, but also the broader community if they're sharing it. So by being able to get the data out of these fields, out of these different documents, compare and validate across it, then it's also going to go through other enriching activities, maybe it does a credit check or other things in addition to validate the data that's there. Obviously, all of the underlying systems need to be updated, whether that's from API or just entering data on the user interface. And this is part of a broader set of applications. It's not just my application that's going through. There's many others. So the managers are tracking SLAs, looking at the KPIs, trying to understand how things are performing. So that's one example. But as I showed in the previous slide, there's many different document types, many different areas where haven't really been pushed and approached in to date, mostly because the technology hadn't been available. But with AI powering intelligent automation, operationalizing AI, we're now possible to work with this type of data and be able to enhance the overall customer experience in the end. So when you're looking how this works, the old way was pretty brick-centric, labor-intensive processes, monolithic systems, a very slow, cost-driven approach. And fast forwarding to the new way, a very click-centric customer experience, very augmented intelligence type of operations with learning bots working side by side with people, with modular AI systems being able to power and work with the different legacy systems that are available. Creates a more fast, customer-driven experience for the customer and for the bank as a whole. So quickly about WorkFusion, just to dive a little deeper here. We provide an industry focus and an intelligent first approach with a lot of industry leadership for our software category. So I mentioned Scotiabank and a few other customers, definitely providing a strong industry understanding, a strong industry know-how to be able to help guide our customers and move them through just a better operational approach. We're doing this with our intelligent first approach. So pre-built learning bots, human-in-the-loop AI, cloud learning, really being able to leverage the best in class AI technology, but operationalize it in such a way that it's really driving operational success. And then doing this as part of leading the industry that we're in. So that means we're recognized across Forrester, Gartner, Everest, depending on if it's a wave, an MQ, or a peak. We're usually in the upper right-hand corner of those charts, helping lead the industry that we're in. So I'll wrap it there, just to do a few, just to summarize this a little bit. Intelligent automation helps improve the customer experience for banking and financial services. The digital customer experience is often merely a digital facade. Things like chatbots, mobile apps, web portals that connect to slow manual back office work. So areas like customer lifecycle management are impeded by this customer documentation, whether it's business formation documents, ultimate beneficial owner, proof of address, etc. These things have been tricky to automate in the past. But intelligent automation is being used to automate the docs and email to be able to improve the customer experience. This is where companies like Scotiabank, Deutsche Bank, TransUnion, BMO, others are already reaping the benefits. All right, thank you for your time.
Awesome. Thank you so much, Kyle. Thank you for sharing this with us. I know this audience is giving you a huge virtual round of applause. That was awesome. And I know the audience loved it. All right, for the audience, it's time for you to make your way to your next session. Along the way, make sure you accept your connection request and take some time to check out our amazing exhibits. Thanks so much, and we'll see you around.